Hello, and welcome to another mnemonic interval. I'm Celia Elliot, sitting in today for Janet Tobabin. We might say that today we are dealing with a tale of three cities: Centerville, our sister city in Germany, Bad Schweißenahn, and another sister city in Canada, Waterloo in Ontario. As Fern Reilich, one of the Sister City Committee members, said to me the other day, that this program is like a seed planted. We never know where it will spread for good. And so with that thought in mind, we'll introduce our guest. We're delighted today to have Ron Helms, our Sister City Chairman, with us. He is also a Kettering school teacher and a Centerville resident. And Sarah Rickman, who is the editor of the Town Crier and also has compiled a book about the recent trip the delegation from Centerville took to Germany. Welcome. We'll begin with you, Ron. Would you give us some background on the Sister City International and how it came about, and also the local affiliation?
Yes, considering some historical background, probably let's take a look at a philosophical statement back in the 1950s by President Eisenhower. It was his point of view that we should let people give expression to their common desire for friendship, goodwill, and cooperation for a better world. Local sister city efforts then hosted a national conference at the White House in 1956, and it was at that point that the sister cities became a thriving concept. To give you a breakout about some of the statistics in 1993, where we are internationally with sister cities, in this country there are 918 U.S. sister cities, 32 of which are in the state of Ohio. There are 1,647 foreign cities which participate in the Sister City program. 73 in Africa, 379 in Canada and Latin America, 647 in Europe, 501 in Asia, 34 in the Middle East. The Sister City concept began in 1974 in the city of Centerville with John Spohr, who was then the chair of the Sister City. 1980 then saw the formation of the two sister cities, Bad Schweißenahn and Waterloo, and it was in 1981 that we had our very first official visit from the folks up north in Waterloo. In 1982, then people from Germany came here, the Ammerlander dancers, and a number of us in Centerville found ourselves hosting the Ammerlander dancers for about a period of 2 weeks. 1984, we had a group from Bad Schweißenahn to Centerville. In 1987, a group from Centerville then traveled to Bad Schweißenahn. In 1988, we had a return visit from Bad Schweißenahn, and then, as most of you know, this summer we saw about 30 people from Centerville visit Bad Schweißenahn. And in 1995, we expect again to host a group of about 30 to 40 people from Bad Schweißenahn to Centerville. That's
a remarkable record. Is there any one person who was responsible for establishing the Sister City program here?
I think probably J.V. Stone deserves an awful lot of credit for conceptualizing the idea.
Yes, and selling it to council. I understand it took a while to get it across. I think he said maybe 4 years, but it did happen, and it's been ongoing ever since. I understand you have some slides for us?
Yeah, I think what we'll do now is take a look at some slides, and I'll go through historically where we were. Back in 1980, as you were taking a look at this editorial cartoon, we were considering a number of different possibilities. Following up on those, then we were able to implement with Waterloo and with Bad Schweißenahn. And then as we go into our next slide, to give you an idea, this was our very first program to host officials from either of the two cities, and we spent a period of about 3 to 3.5 days hosting the visitors from up north. Now, to give people in the viewing audience an idea where exactly Waterloo is, if you focus on Toronto, then as we would go almost due west of Toronto, 1 hour's driving time, we would be in the area of Kitchener and Waterloo. This particular slide was taken during Oktoberfest back in the early 1980s to give people in this area an idea about climate and geography of that area. This is taken the second week in October, and as you can clearly see, it looks an awful lot in Kitchener and Waterloo, pretty much the same way that it might look in Centerville. So we find that their climate parallels to a good deal what we're doing. As you look at the billboard, the KW stands for Kitchener Waterloo, and these people, of course, host the world's second largest Oktoberfest, and that goes on every October for a period of 2 weeks. We've been fortunate from Centerville to participate officially for three different years, and of course we've always got people going to Waterloo to enjoy the local scenery, such as the Maple, which is in the downtown area, and during the Oktoberfest as well as other times, one of the big attractions is the polka. This is the woodchopper's polka. In order to get our people to the point where they could participate, we gave some private dance lessons to our first couple groups so that the people from Centerville can polka as well as can the people from Waterloo and Germany and so on. Now, as you're looking at this slide, it shows our Mayor J.V. Stone, who is participating in a conference with a lady, and I was using this slide in the presentation at Centerville High School a few years ago, and the kids were guessing that perhaps that was his wife, and I said no. Then they came up with another association that we said we didn't have any evidence for at that particular time, but actually you're looking at her honor, the Mayor of Waterloo at that particular time, Marjorie Carroll, who was always good in hosting the people of Centerville. Concurrent with their Oktoberfest, as most of us know here, is the traditional Thanksgiving celebration in Canada. They hold their Thanksgiving celebration the second week in October, which seems to me to be maybe a bit more logical for Thanksgiving than the American way. As we take a look at Waterloo, the whole area was established back in the early 1800s by a group of Mennonites from Pennsylvania, and this is pretty much how the countryside would have looked in the 1800s and still does look about 3 or 4 minutes from downtown. Of course, there is a heavy presence of Mennonite in the area still today, and on any given day you'll see the horses and buggies go by, but particularly early Sunday morning you'll see lots and lots of horses and buggies go by. Our second sister city, Bad Schweißenahn, is located in the northern part of Germany near the North Sea. To give you an idea where it might be located, if you focus in on Oldenburg, and then to the east of Oldenburg about an hour and a half would be Hamburg, the city which we were able to fly into this summer, and then just a little bit west of Oldenburg will be the city of Bad Schweißenahn. And as we take a look at Bad Schweißenahn, it's primarily a resort area, and a lot of people there are making their livings doing resort kind of activities. They're involved with health care, and it's just a fun, neat place for people from Centerville as well as people from all over the world to visit. The Omelanders, when they came here with their first visit, introduced the people of Centerville to one of their traditions which we still are happy to practice today, and that's the idea of using the spoon and snops in order to have their drinks, and many social functions they will engage at that. In the center of the screen, as we're taking a look at the long objects, this is something that everyone who visits Amerland or Bad Schweißenahn has to participate in. And these are the eating of the eel, the E-E-L, the eel. They're long objects which have been smoked. They're seafood. quite a good delicacy. As you are handed one eel, then the objective is to take the head off the eel. The eel had been smoked, skin the eel, and then get into its fleshy contents. Makes a wonderful meal, and then the meal always is followed with schnapps, and everybody typically has a good time as we do that. We have had a number of student exchanges which go back and forth between Waterloo and between Centerville. Here's one of the student exchanges back in the 1980s, in which it would be difficult for me at this time to point out who the Canadians are and who the Americans are, but the kids are having a wonderful time. We've had soccer teams go back and forth, and we've had various other groups which have visited back and forth. We had developed that program so well that in the 1980s, Centerville was recognized as one of the outstanding programs by Sister City International, and we were able to receive at that time an international award. Our visits with Waterloo happen every year. Folks north come to the south every other year, and then we will go north every other year. So far, the Waterloo contingent likes to visit Centerville during the Americana Festival, and that gives them an opportunity to participate in the Centerville Americana Festival with various floats. And here we see one of their floats which they have designed. This is a group that had visited back in the early 1980s, and we have Carl Schwab, who was at that time working with the city of Centerville, speaking fluent German, interpreting for the Germans and the Americans with our visit. The then Mayor Johnny Heinrichs in the center of the screen, and then the three people to the left have been chair of the Centerville Sister Cities throughout the period of the years from the 1980s into the 1990s. Another float designed by the creative people from Waterloo was using their bus, and they've used this float in a couple Americana festivals. I think probably it's through the Americana festivals and the floats that the residents of this area have known Waterloo to be one of our sister cities. And then the present mayor, Brian Turnbull, to the right of the screen, with the then chair Shirley Oglesby and the mayor of Centerville. We're using here Sycamore Country Club, which we have used quite a bit over the last 13 years to host various functions with the Germans and with the Canadians and the Americans. Last summer we had a visit from the Canadians, and were able to do a number of our functions at Benham's Grove. Then, of course, everyone knows this summer we were able to put together and promote a trip to Bad Schwarzenau, Germany. The highlight of the trip came right at the outset, in which we were able to spend a good deal of time with our friends in Bad Schwarzenau, and then be off on the bus and do a tour with about 28 other people through Berlin, into Dresden and Hamburg, into Prague, into Budapest, and then some of our people were able to arrive a little bit early and enjoy part of the sights of Europe, and some of our people were able to stay a week or two later and enjoy a different kind of itinerary. But it looked like a pretty satisfactory trip, and in doing a follow-up to the people who were involved, by and large, most people had a pretty good time on this trip, and we certainly look forward to future trips with Bad Schwarzenau and with Waterloo. And the last slide that I'll show you is a group of the 30 people. Here are a group of people after our first night in Hamburg, standing in Hamburg, and Sarah was able to go ahead and get this picture, and that's the last slide that I'll show.
Thank you, Ron, for a fine presentation. I wanted to ask you two things. One about whether or not this is open to everyone or just people in the Sister City Committee. Is this a community-oriented?
Sister Cities, by its very nature, has to be open to the general community of the south suburbs, actually to people in the greater Dayton area. So many of the activities
encompasses all the south
all the south suburbs and pretty much all of Dayton.
I thought maybe you might want to allude to the international tennis tournament that we've had the last few years in Canada. Could you tell us about that?
Let me say that the mayor of Centerville is a superb tennis player, and every now and then she's able to get somebody else on the court with her who is able to to win some tennis games with the Canadians.
With the mayor and other folks up there?
Yes.
I understand. I believe she won the game, the match this time. I think she came out ahead.
Shirley has been fairly fortunate in all 3 matches that she's had with the Canadians. Shirley's come out on top.
So it's quite a lot of fun for both groups, I'm sure. Now we will turn to Sarah. Welcome. And we'd like to hear about your book, which I understand will be on the market very soon.
Hopefully very soon. Celia, you were responsible, as you know, for me getting involved in Sister City to begin with. If I can take a minute to tell the tale, in 1987, you approached me. I was then the editor of the Centerville Times,
right.
And you came to visit me and asked if you could write some stories about the trip in 1987 for the Times. And I said absolutely, and welcomed them gratefully. But at that time, I said, I'm going to make the next trip. Had no idea when it would be. Of course, we tried to go in 1991. We were going to Båtsfjärden and then up into Norway and Sweden. And that trip, because of the Gulf War, had to be canceled. So this year, we came up again with the trip, as Ron has described, and I signed up. By then, I was the editor of the Town Crier, which is the Centerville bi-monthly publication, and I suggested to our city manager, Greg Horn, and to our mayor, Shirley Heinz, that we could do some articles for the Town Crier and also do some photography that we could use, both video for Cable Council and black and white film that I could use for stories.
Did.
So we did. And what I also have done is to take, I also, of course, write a column for the Times and succeeded in writing about 14 columns. I think people were maybe beginning to get a little bored with it, I don't know. But I put the whole trip into the newspaper through the columns. And thanks to Ron and the Sister City Committee, we are going to publish those columns again in book form. I don't know if the camera can get it or not, but I just got today the cover from Mary Slicer Molino, a local artist who has done the cover for me, and we're going to have the book printed, we hope, in a couple of weeks.
And the windmill is symbolic of that area.
That's from Båtsfjärden. It's a part of the Ammerland tradition in Germany. It's 400 or 500 years old, I believe. But that's our cover. But
sounds very interesting.
That's the book.
Well, I'm sure we'll all look forward to reading it, and we'll enjoy it. Again, even though we read the columns, it will be a nice keepsake.
Well, there are people who do not get the Times and have not seen the column.
Well, I'm glad I planted the seed with you, because now I know that it has had widespread interest in the community, and people will look forward to seeing the book and having it in their homes to enjoy. Would you like to show your video?
Well, we've, with the cooperation of Cable Council and John Morades, who's one of our cameramen here today, Paul Heinz, Shirley Heinz's husband, and I shot a lot of video film while we were in Germany. And
you carried the camera, a large one or a small one?
No, we both have. I borrowed city manager Greg Horn's palm quarter, and
not
Paul has
such
his
a
own.
Heavy.
Right,
camera.
they're not. At one point, I thought I was going to have to take the city camera, which is big, but thanks to Greg, I had a smaller camera. Paul has his own, and the two of us shot, I think, together 4 hours worth of video film. John has taken that 4 hours and has cut it down to a half an hour video, which will be shown on Cable Council probably sometime in December starting.
That would be good.
And what I've done today is to bring a few minutes from that film. Will
you be sending that over to our friends in Germany
I
later
think
on?
so. There's a problem, I believe,
with the formatting.
With the format.
Oh, over there.
They run on different cycles.
Videos don't work over them. Well, maybe you can work something out. Well, now I believe we are ready to see your pictures.
Okay. We'll try to narrate as the film goes by. These are the Ammerland dancers. That's former Mayor Johnny Henricks I don't know if we can catch some of the sound on that. You might hear Johnny talking to us. Can we get the sound?
He entertained us at a party at his home in '87, I believe. That was quite a delightful evening.
Well, here he's introducing Mayor Heinz and Mr. Heinz.
Mm-hmm. There.
There. I think we're going to have some more of the dancers now. This is the last night. I'll let Johnny finish. Yeah. This is the last night that we were in Bad Zwischenahn. They hosted us at a dinner at which all of the sister city people from Bad Zwischenahn and all of us joined. It was, I would say, a typical German feast with roast beef and red cabbage and a wonderful pudding. We tried the local beer, something local called Ulsterwasser, which is a mixture of beer and a lemon mineral water for those who don't like beer as much. Here you will see photos in a minute of probably most of the people that we met on the tour. But right now you're watching the Ammerlander Dancers, who did come to Centerville in 1982, Ron?
That's right.
And I think they are talking about trying to bring this group back, too. It reminds me, I don't know much about cloggers, but it reminds me of that. Okay, here we are at dinner. Shirley writes her speeches, has them translated into German, and then learns to speak in German using hopefully the right accents and all. She's not fluent in German, as are none of us almost on the tour. But she reads it to them in their own language, and they very much appreciate that. And this evening, I don't think you're going to see him on film, but the deputy mayor, Detlef Dirks, was our host that evening. The mayor, Wolfgang Nicolot, was not able to be with us that evening. He did, however, welcome us with open arms, as did the whole group when we arrived about 4 days earlier. Apologize for the darkness here. It's still light outside. This is approximately June 19th or 20th, and as you know, it's light, very, very light. Now we're getting a little bit better. I'm hoping you can hear some of what Shirley is saying, but I can't translate it. I believe these are Paul's photos here. This is from the table on his side of the room. And you see the accordion players behind Shirley. That was our entertainment. They played for the dancers and then played for dinner. And I know that at a couple of points, one of the waitresses delivered a beer to the gentleman there on the left. I think he was very happy with that. This is Roy Baver from our fire department, showing his emblem. Mayor Heinz and Mr. Heinz and Johnny Henricks across the table. And I sometimes have trouble keeping my mouth shut when I'm taking photos, so I get people to talk to me, like I'm getting Johnny to talk to me here. They got tired of me asking them after a while to smile for the camera, but I did it anyway.
I remember seeing him once at Americana, sitting in front of the old township hall eating a watermelon, and that was quite a picture. I wish you'd captured that.
An American treat. The Heinzes stayed with Johnny and Annegret. Annegret was pictured right next to him there. I think I'm going to swing the camera here in just a minute. Yes, there we are with our accordionists again. In a minute, you're going to see them serving the huge soup tureens, which went up and down the table. There we go. There's one of them. Now there's Ron Helms, who's at my right, and Ellis Miller. This is Johannes Feenstra. And his wife, Marguerite. They are the parents of Mary Lou Brewster, who is a German teacher at Centerville High School and is on the tour with us. This is Hannah Posner on the left. Hannah and Herbert, the gentleman you saw just a minute ago, were our hosts. This is Karen Rains. And they hosted Ellis, I believe.
That's right.
Listen to her. She's looking for the word bake. That's Gertrude Kramer. She and Enno hosted the Feenstra. And that's Enno. Enno worked for Volkswagen for 25 years and is fluent in English. He was our translator often.
Many people are.
Yes, most of them know some German or some American, but most of us do not. Again. That's Johnny again. Joanna Clay has just given him a Sister City shirt. This is the next morning. This is breakfast, and they're ready to send us off on our bus with great smiles and also many tears, because we had made some wonderful friends during this time. There's Jean Smith. Next to Annegret. There's Mary Lou next to Jean and the Muellers, who were Mary Lou and Jean's hosts. This is Frida Wasmer, June Hershity's mother, and her hostess, the lady in black there. That was Eileen Baker, you barely saw. And here's Gertrude and Johnny again. This is Norma Horn and Frau Richter. Norma is Greg Horn's mother. This is our host, Cindy Monter, and I stayed with Hannah and Herbert Posner. Wonderful, wonderful people. There's Ellis Miller, who's taught with Ron at Celia. We took Hannah, I started to say Sesame Street watch. Miss Piggy. That's it. That was Gunter and I can't remember the other one's name.
Well, that was very interesting and
7 minutes worth.
Well, let's talk about the overall value of the program, and what do you feel that you gained from this people-to-people arrangement?
Some wonderful friends.
And do you plan to keep in touch with them?
We already are. Cindy Monter, who teaches 2nd grade at Klein School,
yes.
And I stayed with the Posners. A delightful couple who have a wonderful 3-year-old wire-haired dachshund named Anya, who we threatened to bring home with us, but they wouldn't let us. Yes, we have been in contact with them. We had a wonderful time. They could not speak much English, and of course we spoke no German.
Communicate.
We carried around vocabulary books and had wonderful one-word sentence conversations and laughed a lot. In fact, they told us that Hannah and Cindy and I acted like 3 college roommates by the time we'd been there about a day and a half. We had such a good time. We were always off giggling. And
so a lot of preconceived ideas and barriers
people say,
disappear.
How do you manage, when you can't speak German and they can't speak English? Yeah, it's a little difficult sometimes, but you make up for it with a lot of smiles and just being friendly and being open to their culture, and that's why we're there.
I was reading in some Sister City material about the various gestures, that some that you should use in foreign countries and some that you shouldn't, and it said that a smile is an international gesture that will get you a friend in any country, so we have to remember that when we go over there.
I have to tell you, we taught Hannah the high five. I don't know why, but we had a wonderful time. Whenever we wanted to emphasize something, she and Cindy and I would do the high five, which we got lots of laughs.
That brought lots of giggles.
Yes.
And Ron, how do you feel about it? Have you made some friends over there? I'm sure you have.
We were a little bit unique with the host that we enjoyed, Dieter and Hilberg Zahn, because they had, way back in June, made plans to visit the United States in the fall of the year. So we knew that they were going to be here, and their plans included flying into San Francisco and then flying into Las Vegas, and from there flying to Chicago, where they have had friends for about a quarter of a century. And at that point, then Dieter was able to rent an automobile and wound up spending 3 days in the Centerville area.
Wonderful.
He was very, very eager, and one of the main highlights for almost any foreign visitor is the Air Force Museum, and
Of
it was
course,
surprising.
that's the first place we go.
Well, they were able to see some things there that they hadn't known about.
That's true. Well, it's been wonderful talking with you today. You've been delightful guests, and we wish the sister cities well in all their endeavors, and we hope that we can go on some more trips together. I've made 2 to Canada and 1 to Germany, and so I hope to go again, as we all do, and we hope more people will join the group next time. Thank you again.
Thank you.